You stepped forward, smiled when you came to. Every single one of them said, "Good luck. You'll need it," like failure was already written into your blood. But they never understood one thing: pressure doesn't destroy people like you, it creates them. While they doubted, you adapted. While they slept, you sharpened your mind in silence. Now the same people who question your future are watching you become something they can't explain. This isn't about luck anymore. It's about survival, discipline, and proving that the person they underestimated was the most dangerous one in the room all along. People always get uncomfortable around silence because silence hides intention. Loud people announce every move, every plan, every little dream they have, hoping for applause before they even begin. But you were different. You learned early that talking too much gives people access to your energy. So you stopped explaining yourself. You stopped defending your choices. You stopped begging to be understood. And the moment you became quiet, they assumed you became weak. That's how shallow most people are. They mistake calmness for fear and restraint for insecurity. They think if someone isn't constantly shouting, posting, proving, or reacting, then that person must have already lost. What they never realized is that some of the most dangerous transformations happen in complete silence. While they were busy showing off temporary victories, you were building something permanent inside yourself. Every insult sharpened your focus. Every moment of rejection strengthened your patience. Every time they ignored you, underestimated you, or laughed behind your back, they unknowingly trained you to survive without validation. That changes a person. Most people depend on attention like oxygen. But when you spend enough time alone, enough time doubted, enough time fighting battles nobody sees, you become emotionally independent. And once someone reaches that point, they become difficult to break. They thought your silence meant you had no confidence because they only understand confidence when it's loud. But real confidence doesn't need to perform. Real confidence doesn't enter a room trying to dominate everybody. It simply observes and waits. And when the moment comes, it acts with precision. That's why people never see someone like you coming. They judge the outside while ignoring the storm building underneath. They thought they were ahead because you weren't competing publicly. Meanwhile, you were mastering discipline privately. There's something powerful about becoming successful without announcing the process. Nobody notices the lonely nights. Nobody notices the mental battles. Nobody notices the sacrifices, the self-control, the painful rebuilding happening behind closed doors. They only notice the result when it's too late to stop it. And that's the part that terrifies them, because suddenly the person they dismissed starts moving differently. Your energy changes, your mindset changes, your standards change. You stop chasing approval because you've already survived life without it. That's when people become confused. They remember the version of you they underestimated, but now they're standing in front of someone harder to manipulate, someone calmer under pressure, someone who no longer reacts emotionally to disrespect. Silence taught you emotional control. It taught you patience. It taught you how to read people before trusting them. Most importantly, it taught you that not everybody deserves access to your thoughts, your plans, or your next move. People only respect noise because noise entertains them. Silence forces them to think, and thinking makes insecure people uncomfortable. They kept trying to provoke you. They wanted reactions. They wanted proof that they still had emotional control over you. But every time you stayed calm, you quietly won, because nothing frustrates people more than realizing they can no longer disturb your mind. Your silence became armor, not weakness, armor. And the truth is, some people needed you to stay small so they could continue feeling bigger than you. They were comfortable when you doubted yourself, comfortable when you needed their approval, comfortable when you constantly explained your dreams, hoping they would finally support you. But silence changed the balance. The less you spoke, the more you observed. You observed, the more you understood human nature. You started seeing fake support hidden behind smiles, jealousy hidden behind jokes, fear hidden behind criticism. That awareness changed everything. Because once a person truly understands people, they stop seeking validation from them. You stop needing applause to continue moving forward, and that's rare. Most people quit the moment nobody claps for them. But you learned how to keep walking alone. That's why your growth became unstoppable. Silence gave you focus. Silence gave you strategy. Silence gave you power nobody recognized until it was already too late. Every time someone looked at you and said, "Good luck, you'll need it," There was something hidden underneath those words. It wasn't encouragement. It was doubt disguised as politeness. It was their way of saying they didn't believe you had what it takes. People do that all the time. They smile while quietly predicting your failure because it protects them from looking openly negative. If you fail, they can pretend they saw it coming. If you succeed, they can act like they supported you all along. That's the game most people play. They speak in safe little phrases that sound harmless, but deep down, they're hoping life humbles you before you prove them wrong. What they never understood is that rejection affects different people in different ways. Some people hear doubt and immediately collapse. They lose confidence, shrink their goals, and start seeing themselves through the eyes of others. But then there are people like you. People who turn disrespect into fuel. Every doubtful look becomes motivation. Every sarcastic comment becomes pressure. Every "you can't" becomes another reason to continue. And over time, that pressure creates something dangerous, someone who becomes addicted to proving limitations wrong. The strange part is that most doubters don't even realize the role they play in your transformation. They think their opinions weaken you, but sometimes they become the exact reason you evolve. Pain changes priorities. Once you get tired of being underestimated, you stop playing games. You stop wasting energy trying to fit into spaces where you're not respected. You become more disciplined because you understand nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is handing you confidence, success, or purpose. You either build yourself or stay average forever. That's why their doubts slowly became your advantage. While they relaxed, believe you would eventually quit. You kept growing in silence. Every day you became mentally stronger. Every setback sharpened your instincts. Every lonely moment forced you to become self-reliant. And the scary thing about self-reliant people is that they stop needing permission. They stop waiting for validation before chasing greatness. They move with purpose, even when nobody believes in the outcome. Most people only support dreams they can understand. The moment your vision becomes bigger than their mindset, they get uncomfortable. They project their fears onto you because your ambition reminds them of everything they were too afraid to attempt themselves. That's why people often laugh before someone succeeds. It protects their ego. If they mock you early, they don't have to confront the possibility that you might actually become everything they failed to become. But pressure has a strange effect on certain individuals. Instead of destroying them, it hardens them. You started developing emotional endurance. The more people doubted you, the less emotional you became about opinions. At first, the criticism hurt. It kept you awake at night. It made you question yourself. But eventually, something shifted inside you. You realized people judge based on their own limitations, not yours. Someone with no courage will always call ambition unrealistic. Someone with no discipline will always mock consistency. Someone who gave up on themselves will secretly hope you do the same. That realization changes the way you move through life. You stop taking criticism personally because you understand where it comes from. Most negativity is just insecurity wearing a human face. People attack what threatens their comfort, and your determination threatens people who settle. Your resilience threatens people who quit too early. Your growth threatened people who stayed the same for years while making excuses. So when they said, "Good luck, you'll need it," they unknowingly revealed more about themselves than about you. They revealed their fear of failure, their disbelief in transformation, their inability to imagine someone rising beyond the version they once knew. They spoke from limitation while you listened with vision. That's why they stayed stuck while you kept evolving. Because eventually there comes a moment where the same words meant to discourage you become meaningless. You stop hearing doubt. You stop hearing sarcasm. You stop needing approval altogether. That matters is the mission in front of you, the work, the discipline, the obsession with becoming stronger than the person you used to be. And once someone reaches that mindset, they become almost impossible to stop because they no longer depend on external belief to continue moving forward. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid pressure. They run from discomfort, fear criticism, and search for the easiest path possible because they think peace comes from safety. But safety never creates greatness. Comfort never builds strength. Pressure does. Pressure exposes who people truly are when excuses stop working. And while others were breaking under stress, you were slowly becoming someone unrecognizable. That's the part nobody talks about. Transformation is painful. It demands isolation, sacrifice, discipline, and emotional control most people will never develop because they quit the second life becomes uncomfortable. There were moments when everything felt heavy, where your mind was exhausted, your confidence was low, and nobody around you understood the war happening inside your head. People saw your silence but never saw the pressure behind it. They never saw how many times you fought yourself just to keep moving forward. Because sometimes the hardest battle isn't against enemies. It's against your own fear, your own doubt, your own thoughts telling you to give up quietly. And surviving those battles changes a person forever. Pressure forced you to adapt. It forced you to become mentally tougher because weakness was no longer an option. When life keeps testing you, eventually you stop reacting emotionally to every setback. You stop panicking during hard times because struggle becomes familiar. That's when people start noticing something different about you. You become calmer in situations that make others collapse. You become focused while others become emotional, and that calmness scares people because it comes from experience, not arrogance. Most people only know how to function when conditions are easy. The second chaos enters their life, they lose control. But you learned how to think clearly inside pressure because pressure became your environment. Every disappointment trained your patience. Every betrayal trained your awareness. Every failure trained your resilience. And slowly, without even realizing it, you develop the kind of mindset people cannot fake. A mindset built through survival. That's why pressure created a version of you they now fear. Not because you became cruel, not because you became heartless, but because you stopped being fragile. Fragile people are easy to manipulate, easy to discourage, easy to control through fear. But once someone survives enough pain, enough rejection, enough loneliness, they stop reacting the same way. Their emotional endurance increases, their standards increase, their tolerance for fake people disappears completely. People become uncomfortable when they can no longer predict your reactions. They were used to the old version of you, the version that over-explained, over-trusted, and overreacted. The version that cared too much about opinions, but pressure burned that version away. It taught you to observe more and speak less. It taught you to protect your energy instead of giving it away freely. Most importantly, it taught you that survival sometimes requires distance from people who secretly benefit from your weakness. There's a dangerous confidence that develops when someone realizes they've already survived their hardest seasons alone. After that, fear loses power over them. Because once you've faced emotional darkness and still kept moving, ordinary problems no longer intimidate you. You stop needing constant reassurance because life itself became your teacher. Every difficult moment carried a lesson hidden inside it. Pressure also revealed who was real and who was pretending. Hard times expose people faster than success ever will. Some disappeared the moment things became difficult. Some secretly enjoyed watching you struggle because your pain made them feel superior. Others doubted you openly because they assumed pressure would eventually destroy your spirit. But they underestimated one thing: your ability to adapt. Adaptation is what separates survivors from victims. Victims wait for perfect conditions. Survivors create strength inside imperfect ones. You stopped asking life to become easier and started becoming harder to break. That shift changes everything. Because when someone develops internal strength, external chaos loses control over them. Now people look at you differently because they can sense the change even if they can't explain it. Your energy feels heavier, your focus feels sharper, your patience feels controlled instead of weak. And deep down, they know pressure didn't ruin you the way they expected. It refined you. It stripped away insecurity, dependence, and fear until only discipline remained. That's why the version of you standing today is far more powerful than the version they underestimated before. Not because life was kind to you, but because life wasn't. Every painful moment added another layer to your mentality. Every obstacle strengthened your discipline. Every setback forced growth. And while others were searching for escape routes, you were becoming someone built to survive storms without losing direction. Was happening inside you. They saw the same face, the same silence, the same routine, and assumed nothing had changed. That's the mistake people always make. They judge transformation based on appearances because they don't understand that the strongest evolutions happen internally first. Long before success becomes visible, the mindset changes, the habits change, the discipline changes. And by the time the outside world finally notices, the transformation has already been happening for a long time in complete silence. You stopped announcing your goals because you realized most people don't listen to support you. They listen to measure you. Some secretly wait for your plans to fail so they can feel better about their own lack of progress. Others smile in your face while quietly doubting every move you make. So you became careful. You learned that not every vision deserves an audience. Sometimes protecting your dream means keeping it hidden until it becomes reality. That silence became your training ground. While they were distracted by temporary entertainment, you were rebuilding your mentality piece by piece. You started paying attention to your habits, your focus, your emotional reactions. You became more disciplined with your time because you finally understood how valuable energy really is. Most people waste years arguing, proving themselves, chasing validation, or trying to impress people who never intended to understand them anyway. But something inside you shifted. You stopped chasing attention and started chasing growth. The scary thing about private transformation is that nobody sees how much stronger you're becoming until it's too late. They don't notice the nights you stayed awake improving yourself while everyone else relaxed. They don't notice the emotional control you developed after surviving disappointment after disappointment. They don't notice the confidence slowly growing inside you because real confidence doesn't scream for attention quietly. And while they underestimated your silence, you were learning how to survive without approval. That changes a person completely. Once someone becomes independent from external validation, they become dangerous in ways people can't predict. You stop making decisions based on fear of judgment. You stop shrinking yourself to make insecure people comfortable. You stop explaining your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. Instead, you focus on becoming undeniable. That process is lonely sometimes. There's no applause during transformation. No crowd cheering while you struggle internally. Most growth happens in isolation where nobody can see the pressure you're carrying. Some days you question yourself. Some days you feel exhausted. Some days it feels like nobody notices the effort you're putting into becoming better. But hidden growth requires patience. Trees don't become massive overnight. Before anything rises above the surface, roots are built underneath where nobody can see them. That's exactly what was happening to you. While people judged your current situation, you were building roots. Emotional roots, spiritual roots. You were preparing yourself for levels they couldn't even imagine yet. And preparation always looks invisible before it becomes obvious. People only celebrate outcomes. They rarely respect the painful process behind them. The interesting part is that some people became comfortable underestimating you because it made them feel superior. As long as they believed you were weak, lost, or average, they didn't have to confront their own lack of growth. But transformation changes energy. Eventually, your presence starts feeling different. Your confidence becomes quieter but stronger. Your patience becomes sharper. Your focus becomes harder to distract. And suddenly, the same people who ignored you begin watching you closely, trying to understand what changed. What changed was your mentality. You stopped operating from insecurity and started operating from purpose. You stopped needing constant recognition to stay motivated. You became disciplined enough to continue working even when nobody noticed. That level of self-control separates ordinary people from unstoppable ones. Most people only move when they receive immediate rewards. But you learned how to continue in silence, without applause, without validation, without guarantees. That's why your transformation shocked people later, because they thought growth had to be loud. They thought success announced itself early. They didn't realize the strongest people often evolve privately until their results become impossible to ignore. And by the time they finally recognized your transformation, you were already mentally far ahead of the version they once underestimated. There's a different kind of feeling that comes with succeeding when nobody believed in you. It's not just happiness, it's not even revenge, it's deeper than that. It's the quiet satisfaction of knowing you survived every doubt thrown at you and still kept moving forward. Because when people believe in you from the beginning, success feels expected. But when they laugh at your dreams, question your abilities, and secretly wait for you to fail, every achievement becomes personal. Every step forward feels like proof that your faith in yourself mattered more than their opinions. The hardest part was never the work itself. The hardest part was carrying your vision wide, surrounded by disbelief. Most people don't understand how exhausting that can be. Trying to grow while constantly hearing negativity drains energy. Trying to improve while people remind you of your past mistakes becomes mentally heavy. And sometimes the people doubting you aren't strangers. Sometimes they're people close to you, people you expected support from. That kind of disappointment changes the way you see the world. At first, you probably tried explaining yourself, tried making people understand your goals, your mindset, your ambition. But eventually you realize something important: people only understand life from the level of their own thinking. Someone with a limited mindset will always see your vision as unrealistic because they judge your future based on their fears, not your potential. That's why seeking approval became pointless. You learn that some people will never support you until your success becomes impossible to deny, and that realization forced you to become stronger internally. Because when nobody believes in you, motivation has to come from somewhere deeper. You can't depend on applause. You can't depend on encouragement. You either develop self-belief or you collapse under pressure. Most people collapse because they let outside opinions become louder than their own inner voice. But you kept going even when the results weren't visible yet. That takes discipline most people never develop. There were moments where quitting would have been easier. Moments where the criticism felt too heavy. Moments where failure seemed close enough to touch. But pain has a strange way of revealing character. Some people become bitter under pressure. Others become focused. You became focused. Every setback taught you patience. Every rejection taught you resilience. Every lonely night strengthened your mentality a little more. That's why success feels different now, because you remember the struggle behind it. You remember being ignored. You remember feeling underestimated. You remember people speaking to you with hidden sarcasm disguised as advice. And now those same people suddenly act surprised by your growth. Some even pretend they always supported you because people naturally want proximity to success once it becomes real. But deep down, you know who was there during the difficult phases and who only appeared after the progress became visible. Success reveals people just as much as failure does. Some celebrate your growth genuinely. Others become uncomfortable because your progress forces them to confront their own excuses. Your discipline reminds them of their procrastination. Your resilience reminds them of the dreams they abandoned too early. The powerful part is that you no longer need recognition from them anymore. That's the real victory. Not money, not status, not attention. Freedom. Freedom from needing validation to feel valuable. Freedom from shrinking yourself to fit other people's expectation. Freedom from caring whether doubters approve of your journey or not. Once a person reaches that level mentally, success stops being about proving others wrong. It becomes about honoring the version of yourself that kept fighting when nobody else saw potential in you. That version deserves respect because it survived isolation, criticism, uncertainty, and fear without giving up completely. And the truth is, succeeding without support builds a different mentality than succeeding with comfort. It creates emotional endurance. It teaches self-reliance. It forces maturity. You become less distracted by opinions because you already learned how unreliable opinions can be. The same people who once doubted you now watch your progress with confusion because they cannot understand how someone they underestimated became mentally stronger than them. That's what makes your success powerful. It wasn't handed to you through easy circumstances or constant encouragement. It was built through resistance, through silence, through moments where you had every reason to quit but continued anyway. And when someone earns success that way, it changes them forever because they know exactly what it costs to become the person standing in front of the world now. One of the strangest things about growth is how the same people who once ignored you suddenly become obsessed with understanding you. In the beginning, they barely paid attention. They laughed at your ideas, questioned your direction, and treated your ambition like entertainment. Some looked down on you because they only judged what they could currently see. And at that time, maybe your results weren't loud enough yet. Maybe your transformation was still happening privately. But people always make the mistake of assuming someone's current position is their final destination. What they fail to realize is that quiet people are often building in silence. While others chase attention, some individuals are focused entirely on evolution. Became one of those people. Instead of wasting energy trying to convince doubters, you invested that energy into improving yourself. Slowly, your mindset changed. Your habits became stronger. Your discipline became sharper. And without even noticing at first, you started separating yourself from the version they thought would stay average forever. The funny part is that most people only recognize growth after it becomes visible. They don't notice the years of pressure, sacrifice, and mental battles behind it. They only see the finished result and suddenly become curious. Suddenly they start asking questions. Suddenly they pay attention to your words. Suddenly they analyze your moves as if you hold some secret they missed. But the truth is, the secret was consistency. The secret was surviving moments that were designed to break your confidence. There's something unsettling about watching someone you underestimated become powerful. It forces people to confront their own judgment. That's why your rise became difficult for certain people to accept. They were emotionally attached to the old version of you, the insecure version, the version they felt superior to. Seeing you evolve beyond their expectations disrupted the image they had created in their minds. And now, whether they admit it or not, they study you. They watch how calmly you handle pressure. They watch how focused you've become. They notice the confidence in your energy even when you barely speak. Because real transformation changes presence before it changes appearance. Your mentality became stronger, and people can feel that without you saying a word. Some of them secretly wonder how you changed so much. They want to know what happened during the silence. They want to understand how someone they doubted developed such resilience. But they don't realize transformation is rarely one dramatic moment. It's a collection of painful experiences, lonely nights, decisions, and internal battles repeated over time until a person becomes mentally unrecognizable. Every betrayal taught you awareness. Every disappointment taught you emotional control. Every setback taught you patience. You stopped reacting impulsively because life forced maturity onto you. While others stayed emotionally dependent on approval, you learned how to stand alone. That independence became your power. Now the same people who once dismissed your potential pay close attention to everything you do because strength naturally attracts attention. People study what they don't fully understand. And your discipline confuses people who are controlled by excuses. Your consistency confuses people who quit whenever life becomes difficult. Your calmness confuses people who panic under pressure. What really surprises them is that you didn't become successful by becoming louder. You became successful by becoming more focused, more disciplined, more intentional with your energy. Others wasted years competing for validation. You were competing against your previous self. That's why your growth became sustainable instead of temporary. There's also a certain fear people experience when someone they underestimated stops seeking approval from them. Because once you no longer need their validation, they lose emotional influence over you. They can't discourage you the same way anymore. Their opinions no longer control your decisions, and that shift changes every relationship around you. Some people will admire your rise, others will envy it quietly. Some will try reconnecting after ignoring you for years because success changes how people treat you. But your experiences taught you something important. Not everybody who suddenly supports your success deserves access to your life. Growth teaches discernment. It teaches you to recognize who respected you before the results existed, and who only appeared after the transformation became visible. And in the end, the most powerful part of your journey isn't even the success itself. It's the fact that you became someone stronger than the person they once underestimated. Someone disciplined enough to survive doubt, pressure, isolation, and criticism without losing direction. That's why your rise became impossible to ignore, and why the same people who once doubted your future now spend their time trying to understand the mentality that carried you beyond their expectations.